Chapter 6. Everything is a bet. Everything is a bet, and in software development we're playing at least 6 different games. The decision to fund a project was a bet. This might not be something that many people associated with the project want to admit, but it's true. What is a bet? It's a decision to take a risk with the understanding that there is the potential for a reward, but at the same time there is also the chance of failure. That's what a project is. So one way of looking at a project is as a game of chance. This also turns out to be a useful way of explaining what would otherwise be bewildering behaviour, but also as a comfort for those times when the project comes up the equivalent of snake eyes. I don't know much about the game of craps, but I think that's bad. Game number 1. Fuck it. Spin the wheel, roll the dice. The political scientist and economist Herb Simon coined the term bounded rationality. Perhaps we would like to be rational. Perhaps the people who decide to fund a project would like to be rational. Perhaps they would like to give full consideration to all relevant information before they make a decision. Unfortunately, the world is big. All relevant information is a lot of information. That's if anyone can agree on some test of what's relevant. So at some point, whoever is making the decision to fund or not to fund a project has to draw a bound around those things that are relevant and not relevant. No matter how careful and considerate they want to be, sooner or later they need to shrug their shoulders and say, fuck it. And once someone has said fuck it, not only is the project started, but because no matter how careful the decision has been taken, there is going to be an aspect of risk and recklessness to it. 3 other games also start. Often as a project manager, you're not there when the fateful decision gets made. Often you piece together the reasons it was made after the fact. And so the assumption is that a new system will be better, will it? This is especially a brave bet if it's pretty much the same organisation creating the new system that created the old one. Game number 2, HIWTYL or Macavity. This game is discussed by Venkatesh Rao in his book The Gervais Principle. And the acronym stands for Heads I Win, Tails You Lose. Rao's point is that one of the things that will make it more likely that someone at some point says fuck it is that they will think they will be able to take credit for the bet of the project if it's a success, and will be able to be nowhere to be seen if the project is a failure. To quote T.S. Eliot discussing the Napoleon of crime, Macavity the cat, you may seek him in the basement, you may look up in the air, but I tell you once and once again, Macavity is not there. This may seem like reprehensible behaviour until we realise that if it weren't for people who are willing to say fuck it on the basis that they can be around to take credit when projects go well and do a Macavity when they don't, there probably wouldn't be any projects. Also, this seems less condemnable when we realise that the people who kick the project off aren't the only people playing a game. It might seem bad to have a senior stakeholder or project owner who's absent when things are going wrong and a project is struggling. But if the people who kick the project off are too close, they can be tempted to tinker. Game number 3, The Hiding Hand. The journalist Malcolm Gladwell talks about the work of Albert Hirschman, who among many other jobs in a long career was involved in the management and monitoring of projects funded by the World Bank in South America. Hirschman noticed that no matter how wrong-headed and likely to fail the projects were, there was support, enthusiasm and encouragement from the people involved. He called this phenomenon the hiding hand, in reference to the established economic concept, the guiding hand, which supposedly allows markets to find a price. What he's really pointing at is something pretty obvious. The people who are working on a project will tend to cover up the project's problems and downplay its risks, certainly until the project is up and running, because they want the work. A banking project that I worked on was impossible because it was missing a key transaction database. The entire system as envisaged wouldn't work without it. Nobody on the project mentioned it. By the time this problem had become well known, it had sunk the project. Game number 5, upping the stakes. Do you want this or not? To win a hand in poker, the player doesn't just make one decision. They have to make many decisions. They don't just make one bet that their hand will be the winner. They have to decide multiple times if they want to up the stake. What kinds of things might we find that make us think we need to up the stakes? Does the service need a dedicated moderation team? Does it need servers that can deal with 1 million transactions a second? Do we need to hire a consultant with extremely specialist knowledge? In most cases in poker, it's clear when the player needs to up the stakes, and each decision to up the stakes is a more informed decision. The player has typically seen more of his hand. But also, in poker, it's clear that refusing to up the stakes will be the end of the game. Unfortunately, because of the games that we've already talked about, none of these things is very clear in many software development projects. HIWTYL may well mean that whoever kicked the project off is far away from it when it's in trouble. The hiding hand and project management theatre conspire to cover up that this project is any kind of bet at all. This makes it much harder for this stark choice, increase the bet or give up, to be made clear. The irony is that these bets which up the stakes are actually much better bets. They are already informed by how the project has gone up to that point. Their odds are shorter. They have a much better chance of success. But if we are project managers, this is a game that we have to play. We need to use the true value of project management methods, transparency, inspection, adaptation, to highlight potential risks and rewards and make clear the points where the stakes need to be upped, and when this will be a good bet. Game number 6, shortening the odds. If the project that you're working on is a big dumb bet, a real roll of the dice, what can you do to give that bet the best chance of success? You can make smaller, lower stakes bets. Delivering working software early, regularly, and often is a lower stakes bet. If it pays off, it drastically shortens the odds of the project being a failure, or the project turning out to be technically unfeasible, or delivering something that nobody wants. User research before the bet was made, and then all the way through the project, in combination with regular releases of working software, again works to shorten the odds, reduces the chances of delivering something that no one wants, and also provides the best, earliest information on when and if and how the stakes need to be upped. User research combined with early working software drastically reduces the risks and shortens the odds of success for a complex form-filling project that I worked on. Based on findings from user research. Conclusion. Here are the key takeaways. Bet. All projects are risks for reward. They are bets. Many people on a project will try to play various games to cover up the bet-like nature of projects. Admit. If we admit that projects are bets, we can use agile strategies to help them succeed. We can use working software and user research to shorten the odds of success. Stakes. Only by admitting that the project is a bet and using agile methods to inspect and adapt can we up the stakes at the right time and with good information. Everything is a bet. Fuck it, HIWTYL, the hiding hand, project management theatre. How is this a useful way of looking at projects? Well, we've already talked about at least 2 reasons. If you're a project manager and you understand that projects are bets, you can use user research and the early delivery of working software as a strategy for shortening the odds and increasing the chances of the project succeeding. If you understand that projects are bets, you can spot the crucial points at which the stakes need to be increased, and you can make these clear as risks and opportunities to stakeholders. but there are other reasons why it's useful and helpful to see projects as bets. The game of HIWTYL can look utterly despicable if you don't know that it's, in part at least, a rational required response to saying fuck it, and that if people couldn't behave like this, they wouldn't be so tempted to say fuck it and greenlight projects. At the same time, regardless of HIWTYL, what if a senior stakeholder knows that he was the one who made the bet, and everybody else knows it too? What if there's a risk it doesn't pay off? He will be taking the blame. If you thought you might be taking the rap for losing £1 million to £300 million, that's the most expensive Doom project I've worked on, how would you be behaving? You might be pretty strident in your demands that a project be delivered for the deadline. Deadlines. That's one final reason why we've taken the time to look at projects as bets and to examine the games that people play as a result of making those bets. And that's because looking at projects as bets is crucial preparation for our next chapter. Because in the next chapter, the first chapter which talks about unhelpful ways of seeing projects, we're going to talk about commitment and consistency, seeing project management as keeping promises, why that's such a bad idea, why it causes so much damage, misery and destruction, and what we can do to deal with it.